Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sarah Sutton and my dog. Mommy, look, what's this? Mommy, what's this? It's like a game of what I can distract her with until she ultimately returns to that cardboard box. Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are talking about the writing challenge that I did in January, which was write 20,000 words every single week. And I say it's a writing challenge, but it was really like I challenged myself. It's not like I got this challenge from anywhere else. It was it was me. I was the one doing the challenging. Before we hop straight into how I did, what were my numbers, all that jazz, I want to take a little bit of a walk back and discuss what led me here in the first place. Just in case you are new here, I am Sarah Sutton. I'm an indie author of 10 books. And the past year, my life has been pretty tumultuous in terms of productivity. So we published a book in February of 2023 and then in August of 2023. But man, oh man, did we fall off the grid, the wagon? We fell. And it hurt. And I scraped up my knee and I let it get infected and it was just not a good time, okay? Once I finished writing Fake Dating the Football Player, which came out in August of 2023, I think I was close to finishing up that draft I definitely finished it in July. I definitely finished everything in July. I want to include June in this because I feel like my productivity, I wasn't necessarily editing so heavily in June. We were still working on the final edits at end of June, July. That time. End of June, July was the last time we were productive. I started a draft in June, and by the end of the year, I had only gotten 20,000 words into that draft, which for some people, that might not sound bad, but for me, who is a full-time author, whose main job and main source of income is writing, that's bad. And I got into this cycle of in my head, I knew it was bad, but I hadn't hit rock bottom yet in order to kind of bounce back. I was still slowly falling. And then eventually we hit rock bottom. Sales were lower than ever. Productivity was at an all-time low. Everything was dark and bleak and scary. And that was when we decided, okay, it's time to actually take control of our life again and make things happen and stop letting our excuses weigh us down. Now that's me brushing over it in a kind of a nice, pretty way. My mental health was very, very low at the end of last year. And that's not something I'm going to go into. I feel like mental health is a very personal journey and not one that I totally share a ton of online. If it relates to my job, then I'll share about my mental health. I don't think necessarily my mental health struggle is related to my job. I think it was just plain old rough patch of personal life. And it just unfortunately negatively impacted my job. So yeah, it wasn't like I was just choosing not to be productive. I kind of was, but it was also just some depression mixed in there. Which leads us to January 2024. Like I said, all-time low. Terrible, 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 bad times all around. I was feeling very overwhelmed and, frightened about how the numbers were looking. It happened at the perfect time, me hitting rock bottom. I was talking about this with Autumn Ashley. So for me, and I feel like for some people, it's really hard to bounce back fully unless you hit rock bottom. And I think I really lucked out about hitting rock bottom at the end of an old year, at the beginning of a new one, because I could take that fresh start of a new year and use that already forward momentum into propelling me forward further. And that is what we did. Hence the 20,000 words in a week challenge. What it is, it's 20,000 words in a week for every single week of January. So January started on a Monday. January 1st was a Monday. So my weeks went from Monday to Sunday in January. I counted all of those weeks, those days, as one week. And instead of writing every single day, I gave myself 2 days off because I knew there were some days I didn't want to write. There's always going to be those days for some people that they just don't want to do what you want. You don't want to do work. And really, who works 24/7? Who works every single day of the week, all year long? Not a lot of people. So I gave myself 2 days off, and so to get 20,000 words in 5 days, that would be 4,000 words every single day. Which for some, that sounds crazy. And I admit, if you think about it, if I say it, saying it out loud, that does sound crazy. But I can probably average about 800 to 1,000 words in an hour. I did sprint with Autumn Ashley recently, and we did 2 sprints, and I believe I got 501 and 401, and they were both 25 minutes long. So we're just going to aim low and say let's do 800 words an hour. A typical workday is 8 hours long. You don't see me pulling out my calculator for this, okay? If I got 800 words in an hour and I wanted to write 4,000 words in a day, that's 5 hours worth of writing, which means that's still 3 hours less than the typical workday that an average person does. Some people pull longer work days. Some people do 12 hours. Some people do 10. But for this, I'm just using 8. Then that 3 hours leaves the 3 hours for admin work. Now, let me be honest. I didn't do it this way. I didn't schedule out a day, like work day. I didn't think, oh, I need to write for 5 hours and then do admin work for 3. I didn't do that. I didn't. It's a great idea. I should have done it. I might do it for February. I didn't do it for January. But to look at it from an idealistic, realistic standpoint, 4,000 words does sound strange, but when it is your job, I do think it's also realistic. For me personally, who writes on average 800 words an hour? Some people average more words an hour. Some people average less words an hour. For me, that's my number. Now, like I said, writing is just one part of my business. Granted, it is the main source of income. I do get the most money out of my books per month, but I also do client work. And what my client work is I read books, other people's manuscripts, I critique them, and that's my client work that I do. Client work can vary from how long it takes me. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours, sometimes it takes me 5 hours. So that is another thing that kind of played into my goal for January, my goal setting for January, my counts for January. If I had a client work due and it took me 5 hours, that's already 5 hours of my workday. If I was doing an 8-hour workday, so that's 3 hours of writing, and that's not going to get me the 4,000 words. I will say I did have quite a lot of client work in the month of January, more than I think I anticipated, and they were all kind of clumped together. The thing with me is that if I read too many client works in a row, I think I had one that was one every day, 4 days in a row. If I have too much client work in a row, I kind of get a little bit burnt out of words for a day or two. I'm just ready for a break from my computer screen. And that happened. And so I think that ultimately affected my numbers. One other major thing that affected my numbers in the month of January is that my aunt passed away. And my aunt was an amazing, beautiful, lovely lady. It was unexpected. She was one of my number one supporters. But it's my aunt and my grandmother. And they're both my number one supporters in the terms of the writing world. Losing her, it hit really, really hard. She passed at the beginning of January, and then we had her memorial at the end of January. So those are the two kind of bigger things that happened this month that I think negatively impacted my writing. Otherwise, I can't think of anything else that would have tripped me up at all. I do think it's just that. Now, in the beginning of January, if you guys are keeping up with the vlogs, you'll have remembered me saying I made this change. I am trying something new in terms of how I'm writing, and we'll see if this benefits. And I believe I want to say that happened on Thursday the 4th. I don't know for certain. I believe it was Thursday the 4th. If not Thursday the 4th, then Friday the 5th. But I believe it's Thursday the 4th. So a lot of you guessed it, and it's not going to be a surprise, but I did end up changing manuscripts. And the reason why I didn't tell you is because I absolutely hated the fact that I kept complaining and wanting to flip back and forth. I was flipping back and forth between projects, to be honest. I was writing Madison's book and then a Christmas book, and then we were back to Madison's book, and I wanted to flip again. And I felt really embarrassed posting it online and be so we switched again, you guys. And honestly, I shouldn't have been embarrassed about it, but I also didn't want to make that change. And then this book also not work, and then I have to switch back. I didn't know. I didn't know how it would go. So yes, we changed projects. So instead of writing Madison's book, which Madison is a character in my Most Likely To series, her book was going to be number 5, the final book in the series. Instead of writing that book, we switched to a new adult romance book idea, which I will be sharing in the videos to come, months to come. It is an idea that I've actually had in my head for a few years now, and it's been one that I've always wanted to write, but it never felt like the right time to write it, never the right moment in my publishing schedule to write it, and this feels like the right time. And I actually remember saying sometime last 2023, back before I decided to add Madison's book to my roster of the Most Likely To series, that 2024 would be my new adult year. This might be it, you guys. Now, don't worry if you're a fan of my young adult stuff and you're like, oh no, she's writing new adult. Oh no. Don't worry. Don't jump ship yet. My new adult stuff is going to be kind of like the similar vibes and similar flavoring of the young adult world, but with more mature characters and slightly more mature themes. Listen, we've only just had our first kiss. We can't move that fast. Maybe one day, but for now, if I write anything, it would be closed door. But this book that I'm writing right now, I'm not finished with it yet, but I don't anticipate there being a closed door scene. I don't anticipate that happening. So it's really kind of like the same ballpark as my young adult books, just with older characters. That was what we were working on for the month of January. Yeah, Madison's book, you guys, if you watched the very first week 1 writing vlog, the 20,000 week challenge vlog, week 1, I was struggling. My mom, she's so sweet. She's like, Sarah, why are you writing this book? She's like, you don't want to. You're just doing it because people want you to. And I'm like, well, I do want to. Then I also don't. The funny thing is, it's like so clear in my head. This whole plot, the scenes, it's clear. The plot is clear. I don't know why the execution was just not working, but it wasn't. And there was no forcing it to work, and I kept trying to force it, and it was just hell. This was the book that I started writing back in June, and I only had 20,000 words in up until December. I don't know what is wrong with this book. I don't know if it is cursed. I don't know if it's just not the time for it to be happening. I know I have a lot of people who are waiting on Madison's book, but for right now, I have to shelve the idea. I can't work on a book that makes me question whether or not I want to be an author. I can't put my energy into that because I tried, and for 6 months I tried, and I ended up in the worst pit of mental health I've ever been in. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's the whole book's fault because there's a lot of other factors, but let's dive into the numbers. So I have my planner open in front of me. I was gonna do like a recording thing where you can see the overhead view, but I don't think it's necessarily super important for you to see the individual numbers and days and stuff. But let's just talk about the weeks. Week 1. So we made the switch 4 days into the month. I think it's 4. I think it's 4. 4 days into the month. We had one 5,000 word count day though on the 2nd, so that's pretty great given the fact that it was in Madison's book when that happened. But then the day following that was 943, and that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. So we switched. Week 1's total was 14,320 words, which is not 20K. That's unfortunate, but we were close, and especially because if you think about what I was writing wise before that week, I think in December I was writing here and there and not getting a ton of words a week, so 14,000 in a week was pretty good. Week 2, this is our first full week of having switched manuscripts, and we had 3 days where we hit our 4,000. Oh, we had 4 days. We had 4 days where we hit our 4,000 word count day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Sunday. Thursday we had 3,000, but then Friday and Saturday we had under 1,000, so those days were not great. I think I had client work those days though. So week 2, we got 20,871 words. And I do remember being like, I have to hit this word count. I need just 1,000 words left. I'm going to hit this word count. And we did, so yay. Week 3, there were only 2 days that we hit our 4,000 word milestone, which I mentioned in the vlogs. I was never gunning for 4,000 words. And then somehow it ended up that I was gunning for 4,000 words. So yeah, I didn't start aiming for 4,000 in a day, but it just happened, and it works. It's a helpful gauge, instead of just saying, oh, right, however many I feel like it. But I'm really good with word counts and goals like that, so that really helped. Tuesday and Wednesday were the days that I hit those 4,000 days. So for week 3, we only grabbed 12,408 words. Not great, but still more words than I had written before. So can we be mad about it? No. Week 4 was a rough one. Week 4, I actually had a lot of client work too. And I didn't keep track of it on my planner, which is something I'm going to be incorporating for February, is keeping track of the days I do have client work and I work on client work. That way I can see the correlation between client work and writing word counts. But I didn't keep track of it in week 4. But I do remember I had a lot of client work. This is probably the week that I had like 4 in a row. So week 4, we only had 6,748 words. So half of week 3. But then again, Saturday was my aunt's memorial, so we were kind of like gearing up emotionally for that, and that was rough until the day after. Sunday, I also got 0 words because Saturday and Sunday were just like washed mentally. And then carrying over into week 5, there was only 3 days in week 5, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. And of those 3 days, we had 674 words. Again, though, I do think it was the emotional impact of the memorial, as well as I had client work those days as well. I think I had 2 due on the 29th. I do remember that. And one person insulted my intelligence when I gave them the report. So that was just kind of a mental bang, you know? The total for the month of January, let's tally it up. The total for the month of January, we wrote 55,021 words. Oh my gosh. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days off. So 11 days off, 31 minus 11 is 20. It was 55 something. 55,000 divided by 20. So that's about 2,500 on average per day. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. 55,000 words in a month. That's nano numbers. NaNoWriMo is 50,000 words in a month. So I'm really, really happy with this progress. And that moves us into the month of February, where I actually am going to be doing this challenge again, but on a smaller scale, but a more intentional scale. The day that I'm filming this is the 4th, and I am trying to gun for 2,000 words every day in February, which I know what you're thinking, like, Sarah, you're halving that goal? Really? Out of the days in January, I only hit 4,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Out of 31 days, I only hit 4,000 7 times. Now, how many days did I hit 2,000? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 13 times. Which, I'll be honest, is not a lot more than what I thought it was. There were plenty of days where I wrote 2,000. I'm like, I could keep going. I want to keep going. It's kind of like just getting into the momentum. You can get into the momentum for 4,000, but it's still daunting, like end goal. But once you get into the momentum for 2,000, I feel like 2,000 is about a scene for me. Yeah, about a chapter for me. So I feel like it's kind of almost a chapter a day in a way. And really the end goal for February is to finish this first draft. I'm not really aiming for like, oh, let's do the word count. Now it's finish the draft. So that is the intention. We're doing 2,000 words a day. Probably, we might still be intentional about taking 2 days off. I'm not really sure about that. Only 2 days max though, but maybe there aren't going to be some weeks that I write every day. I don't know. But what I'm going to do differently this month is make a star when I do have client work, like I said, so that way I know when something, like we can see how client work correlates to word counts, like I talked about. So that is the intention for February, to try it again. If you guys want to join me, comment down below and we can cheer each other on. 2,000 words. I understand though that for some people that's not really doable, but if you guys are doing a personal challenge for you, how many words you're going to do, let me know. I'd love to cheer you on. And if you enjoy these kind of videos, this challenge this past month, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Comment down below what your favorite part of January was, either in my videos, in your life. Let me know. And let's gear up for the month of love. As a romance author, I swear, like, February is just an exciting time. It's a beautiful time. Even though my love life is non-existent, it's still fun overall. It's still nice to write cute romantic scenes in the month of love. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Sarah Sutton. I'm an indie author of 10 young adult romance books, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Also, we need to figure out a different tagline for me, because if I'm going to be writing new adult, I can't say I'm an indie author of 10 young adult romance books and 1 new adult romance book, can I? It's a mouthful.